Hello, English 9 students. Sorry if my screen is moving a lot and sorry. Because my arm is broken and I can't really move. I have my computer on my lap and I'm trying to make these videos. So because the computer's on my lap on pillows, it kind of moves a lot. So I apologize. So this presentation lesson is on speaking skills. All right, so get out to wherever you would take notes and let's start talking about public speaking. Next week, you're actually going to start creating your, no, you are creating your script this week. You're gonna start creating your slides, start practicing your speech. I'm gonna show you how you're gonna record your speeches. All right, so slide 2. Speaking skills. Your learning target is students will evaluate effective and ineffective public speaking qualities and transfer the skill to their Ignite presentation. So remember, this is going to look a little different. So even though we're not going to be in person and we're not going to even be live giving these speeches, you're going to record the speeches and it's going to look a lot like what you're watching right now. I'm going to be able to see images and then I'm going to be able to see your face at the bottom corner. So what I'm going to be looking at a lot in terms of skills, we're going to go over and I'm going to tell you which ones you're still going to be able to perform in this type of environment, and other ones that, yeah, but you're probably not going to perform as much because we're not live. I'm not seeing you in person, but it's still really important that you understand these skills so that when you do return to in person, you feel like, okay, I've been exposed to this. I have some knowledge. So just, a reminder, the speech must be 5 minutes, right? We'll talk more about that next week. You just need to start drafting. You must have 20 slides, 15 seconds per slide. We're going to talk about that next week as well. And your speech must have an introduction, body, and conclusion. So, public speaking is not just when you're given an assignment like this. Like, okay, you're going to give a speech to your class. Public speaking is a lot of different things, right? For example, I told some of you that I'm literally a public speaker for my career, right? I spend all day, every day talking to over 180 students a day, usually in person, teaching lessons, which means I need to be prepared. I need to know how to have certain mannerisms and body movements and volume and tone, and I need to keep my audience engaged. I don't want my students to be bored, right? And so a lot of the things I do just in my career are a lot of the things that you would learn in how you would just give a formal public speech. And so many of you might say, I hate public speaking. I hate giving speeches. This is pointless. It's not, because you're not totally sure what your career is going to be yet. And you never know when you're going to need these types of skills, because there's lots of different scenarios where you have to have some knowledge of public speaking skills. So, this image here, what's wrong with this image? Look at this woman, right? Now, she's probably doing this for a purpose, but look at the arms. Like, what if I was just teaching like this in the video, I'm like moving around, right? And there are certain things that you need to learn when you're giving a speech. And those things are important because you want to keep your audience engaged, because you don't want them to look like that, right? And sometimes you probably feel that way, right? I swear I'm a much better teacher in person. Students laugh. They think I'm funny. I probably am not coming off funny at all in these video lessons, but I'm doing my best. So give me a break. I broke my arm. All right, so when we talk about public presentations, when we have to speak in front of people, 35% of what we do is verbal, so the actual content of the speech. 65% of giving a successful presentation or speech or any type of speaking in front of people, such as teaching, right? 65% of that is nonverbal. Okay, 65% of having success in delivering some type of message when you have to speak in front of others is nonverbal. And nonverbal consists of facial expressions, tone of voice, movement, appearance, eye contact, gestures, posture. Okay, so all of those things, 65%. So if you can do really well in the nonverbal, it means that people will actually hear the other 35%, which is the verbal. If you don't do well in the nonverbal, then your audience might only hear 15% of the verbal, the actual content you're talking about, or they might only hear 20% or 5%. You want to get the max 35%. I want everyone to hear what I said. If I took the time to give a speech or a presentation or whatever it may be, you want people to listen. And so paying attention to your nonverbal is really important in order to be successful. So speaking skills, right? Here are some like key things to keep in mind. Alter pace and tone of voice. So voice inflection. So I know like we are only meeting each other in small groups over Google Meets. It's all virtual. I'm told by all of my students I'm really, really loud, okay? And I do. I like project my voice. I mean, if I'm at one end of the hallway, students can hear me at the other end if my door is open. That's how loud I am, okay? So, but here's the thing, voice inflection, so the pace. So if I start talking this fast and then I'm like, okay, do you remember what I just said? Do you know what I'm talking about? That's way too fast, right? Your pace is really important in keeping your audience engaged, even in a virtual setting where you're going to record yourself. If you talk too fast, you're going to lose me, and I'm going to have to pause and play and pause and play to try to figure out what you're saying. If you talk too slow, right, that may also cause an issue. Now, there are appropriate times where you should speed up your pace, slow down your pace, and then have a pretty moderate pace. Remember, I'm not saying you can never speed up your pace or never slow it down. There might be a reason why you're choosing to slow it down or speed it up. But you have to think about what's the purpose behind speeding it up right now. Is it going to make the verbal, remember we looked at this chart, the other 35% stick, right? If slowing my pace down for a part of that speech makes sense because it makes sense to the verbal part, then do that, right? So you have to think about the pacing, right? How am I pacing what I am saying? And then the tone of your voice. You know, if you're talking about something super dark and serious, you're not going to be like smiling and being so chipper and happy. Like that probably wouldn't be an appropriate tone. The point of tone, the speaker's tone is supposed to create a certain mood in the listener, just like in a paper. So if my tone is excited and uplifting and just, you know, you're like, man, this song is on fire. Like I can feel it. I feel that mood. Then I'm doing my job. If I want to talk about something serious and I want you to take it seriously, I don't want you being like, yeah, let's party. Like, you should be feeling like that seriousness mood, right? So your tone is really important. Your tone needs to fit your topic. Your tone needs to fit the content of what you're talking about. These are still skills you're going to use here virtually, even though you're not in person, right? Adequate volume and clear pronunciation. Like I said, I'm super loud, okay? You always want to make sure people are going to hear you. Now, I don't think this should be an issue. In person, it's definitely an issue. You get shy students that are like, I hate public speaking. So they talk this slow, and then you're not sure what they're talking about, and then I can't hear them. I'm not even sure if you can hear me because I don't know if the mic is that good that it picks it up. But there's a possibility if your volume is not good enough, I might not be able to hear you on video. Now, the likelihood is you could probably be a little quieter and I'll still hear you, or you're probably not going to be as quiet because you don't have an entire 35 student audience watching you. You're talking by yourself through this little hole in your laptop with a little light that tells you it's recording, which is what I'm doing right now. So volume is probably not going to be an issue, but be aware of it. Now, clear pronunciation. Please make sure I can understand what you're saying, right? Pronunciation is very important. Before I became an English teacher, I was actually a broadcast journalist major, and I worked in broadcast journalism for a short time. And so pronunciation was always like, there were certain classes where we had to practice, or I would have to re-record things because they needed to make sure that I was pronouncing words correctly so that, you know, the listener can hear, right? So those are still things that are going to be important when you're recording your speech virtually. Maintain appropriate eye contact to engage the entire audience. Okay, so here's the deal. you're not really looking at audience. But in this situation, you should be looking. So right now, if you're looking at the little box and not the screen, I should be directly looking at you in that little box because I'm looking at where the camera is, right? So you better be prepared with your speech, right? Hopefully you're pretty prepared so that you can be talking to the screen. So I feel like you're looking at me because I'm the only listener. Well, actually, other students in the class will watch your speeches too. But you want to make sure that they feel like you're looking at them, you're talking to them, right? Now, in a live situation where you would be in person, it would be different, right? And probably more nerve-wracking. So I hope that this is actually going to be a little easier for many of you. Now, if I'm looking down right now, or I'm looking over here talking, like that'd be really awkward, even in this setting, right? Or if I'm even looking at my words right now on the screen, you can tell I'm not looking at you in the video, right? So, the last one says maintain strong posture and use hand gestures. Okay, so this differs in this situation, okay? What if I was just doing this the whole time? You should be looking at me, not the screen, right? Like if I'm just like, you know, I'm just going to eat my hair, gross. Ugh. Okay, so if I'm sitting here twirling my hair, or I'm sitting here, you know, constantly like, oh man, my glasses are dirty actually. And looking at my glasses like this, it's distracting, right? You know, so, or if I'm doing this, hey, you know, if I'm like, oh, or I'm like doing this with my camera, which I'm kind of doing right now because my computer is sitting on my lap. So you might not want to do that. You might want to have your computer on a table where it doesn't move. You want to make sure that you're not moving your head too much or twirling your hair or touching your glasses. That's for this virtual setting. Now, if we were in person, you need to be a bit more careful, right? When we get nervous, we will do certain body posture hand gestures that we don't even realize. I can't show you guys what I do. I have this stool when I teach in person at the front of my class, and I lean on it a certain way, and I don't even notice I'm doing it when I'm teaching. And it's not because I'm nervous. It's just something I'm doing while I'm talking. And the kids had pointed it out to me. They're like, yeah, sometimes it's distracting because we're watching you thinking you're going to fall off that stool, even though I'm like, oh, I didn't even realize I did that. Or sometimes if I have a pen in my hand, I'll sit there and click it the entire time I'm teaching, and the kids go nuts. Now, can you please stop doing that? You know, a lot of times when students speak in person, they sway back and forth, they touch their clothes, they're playing with their hair, you know, so those are things you need to be aware of. The only way that you get better at that is practicing speaking in front of people and then being aware of the things you do and then trying to change them while you're speaking. So for example, I just told you I do this weird thing with my stool when I'm standing and teaching, and it's not even because I'm nervous. I don't even realize I'm doing it. But once the kids pointed it out to me, I was like, okay, I'm going to be more conscious about not doing that because it's distractive to them. And then they're not listening to my verbal words, right? Because they're paying attention to my body posture or my positioning. Okay. But I do believe in this setting, it's going to be a bit more easy to be confident. You know, if you're slouching, you're looking down, and you're being really quiet, you know, that posture is going to tell me you're not confident in your speech. So practice this confidence here, right? Look at that screen. Pretend you're talking to me. Feel like you're talking into Miss Song's eyes. You want me to really hear this speech, all right? So speaking skills practice, right? We have pace and tone, volume and clear pronunciation, eye contact posture, use of hand gestures. So what you're going to do is you're going to go to Schoology. And right here, you're going to see 2.2.1. It says speaking skills practice. You're going to open that. It's going to be a Google Doc, and there are going to be 3 YouTube links. And you are going to watch 3 Ignite speeches. And you're going to watch all 3 of them, and you're going to evaluate them based on these ideas. How well was their pacing and tone? How good was their volume, and clear pronunciation? Did they have good eye contact, or were they looking down at their notes too much? Was their posture confident? Did they use hand gestures that were appropriate and not distracting? You know, so you're gonna now, after we talked about all of these things today, you are going to go and practice these skills and evaluate someone else, okay? And these are the YouTube links, but you'll find that on the Google Doc on Schoology. And then this is the first speech. You'll open the YouTube and you'll see this. This is the second one. And then this is the third one.